So it has been 3 days now since I was fired from my job at 40 years old. Monday morning, I was called into my job and told that they were going to part ways and that we're moving directions. So today I wanted to make a video about the 5 things that I think you should look out for in no particular order, but might be signs that you're about to get fired. So the first one I want to cover is the obvious, which is a unexpected meeting, sudden call or email, right? If you're at your job and all of a sudden you get an unexpected email or phone call or get told to go into a meeting that was not on schedule, depending on your job, this can be normal. However, in my case, even though it was normal, the fact that the owner of the company jumped onto the meeting right before I was told what was going to happen was definitely a big red flag. So I should have seen that coming. If you can avoid it, you can try to get out of there before it happens. If you want to face the music like I did, feel free. Just know that it's usually something really important. And unless you're expecting some kind of raise or think you've been really kicking butt, and odds are if you're watching this video, that's not the case, then you probably know what's coming. So that's the number one sign. Super obvious, but super simple. And definitely if you're having an unexpected meeting, just know something is going to happen and it's probably not going to be in your favor. The second thing that's kind of more subtle but does happen often is decreased workload or lack of shifts, right? Depending on the work you do, it can show itself in different ways, right? So if you work at a place where you're offered shifts and they change, let's say bi-weekly, maybe you're not getting as many shifts anymore, right? Or if you're perhaps working at a place like a restaurant and there's busier shifts where, you know, people are making more tips, etc., things like that, and you're not getting put on those shifts, that may be a sign that something is coming and they're not utilizing you to your full potential. I would definitely keep an eye out for this. And if you notice that you're getting less shifts, you notice that your workloads are decreasing, something is happening in terms of the relationship with your employer and you, that they are not offering you more work and they're not looking to invest more time into your work efforts. So that should be a huge red flag. And again, something you should definitely look out and take note if you see it's happening at your job or with your position. The third thing I think you should look out for kind of connects to the second one, which is just a lack of communication. And I mean less communication from your boss or your employer or your supervisors as to what's happening, things that are going on in the company or schedules or certain tasks and duties that need to get done. If they're not being allocated to you and on top of that, you're not in the know about what's happening, that's a huge red flag, right? Any good business or operation runs with a team that is fully informed about everything that's going on. So if they're not sharing information with you and you're out of the loop, just know that that's a big red flag that you are being undervalued in your position. And again, they might be looking to get rid of you. Number 4 is something really big, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately that applies to me, and it might apply to you if you're watching this video. And that thing is you're making mistakes. You're calling it in. Now, this you need to be really subjective about. Specifically, I'm talking to people right now who either just got fired and you're thinking back to what happened, or maybe you're in the position right now where you're thinking you might get fired and you're looking for signs. Know that if you were calling it in, if your work quality is going down, they're going to notice. And truly, your work quality degrading hurts anyone, not only yourself, because when you're at a job and you don't like what you're doing and you're just calling it in and you hate it and you're not stepping up to the plate, you're not performing, your work quality sucks. But then your attitude and your emotions towards that job are also really in the dumpster, right? Like you don't want to put effort because you think it's stupid or you don't like being here or you're stressed. Underperforming at work is a huge deal, and it's something I really want you to focus on. If you're in the position right now, like I said in my last video, where you want to get out your job, but you're putting energy into other things, you need to stay on the ball at work. Trust me, especially if you have things going on outside of work or you have other projects you're trying to focus your energies on. It's super important, especially at this point, to make absolutely sure that you're doing the best possible work you can at work. Just to stay under the radar at the very least, just to make sure that you are meeting the minimum standards and you're giving the employer what they need, and they just kind of leave you alone, let you do your job, and you can continue on your way, even if you have other projects and things going on outside of work. Don't let your work quality slip. And finally, the last sign I think you should look for is really obvious as well and kind of relates to the first one, but it's the ominous changes are coming, or we're looking to make some changes in the future, or we're looking to shift things around. If you haven't been informed and no one's been keeping any communication about this leads back to part 3, which is communication, but also just know it's not always a bad sign, but more often than not, a big shift means that things are not working for the company right now at the moment the way they are. And that can include you. right? So keep an ear out for that kind of talk, right? If you hear that shifts are coming, especially if it's within your department or in the position that you have, just be ready for anything, especially if you haven't had any communication about it in the past. So these are some of the things I've been thinking about over the last 3 days since I was fired. So all of these 5 things are things that can be looked at and you can kind of spot from far away, minus getting called into a meeting unexpectedly and just fired on the spot. The other ones you can all kind of like see coming, right? And that's the biggest thing I want you to think about right now. If you've already been fired and you're going into your next job, think about these things going forward, right? If you're in a position right now and you're feeling these things, I want you to address them now and just know, right? So the communication thing, I think, is super key. If you're feeling like you're not getting work, if you're feeling like you're not getting shifts, if you see that the communication from your bosses is dwindling, you need to step up to the plate. They have other people who might want the job. And if it's depending on a company, right, they might have a lot of people wanting the job, right? The point is that they're at the advantage because they have the work and you need the work. So it's easier for them to not communicate things to you and simply move on, right? You need to step up to the plate and tell them what your grievances are. Ask your supervisor, ask your manager, tell them you want more work, right? Even if you're not looking to invest more time and energy, we're talking about job security here. And what I don't want to happen to you is what happened to me, which is that you get laid off because you don't focus on these things and you start slipping slowly. Don't let your work quality dwindle. Communicate when you see that you're not getting enough work or that your workload is dwindling. Talk to your supervisors and managers and express to them that you are willing to work and that you're willing to improve yourself. And half of the time, that's really what they want to hear. If you're suffering at work and your performance is going down, 9 out of 10, depending on the job, if you tell them, hey, I'm trying to better myself and I want some support, your managers will usually support you, right? And if you don't do that, well, guess what? It sends a message. And that message is that you don't really care. And they will pick up on that. So yeah, this is day 3 of being fired now. And it's been really interesting. And it's had me reflecting a lot on my actions that led up to this, but also at the same time, allowing me to have a fresh perspective on what I want to do going forward, whether my own personal endeavors take off or whether I end up at a different job. I want to have a different attitude going forward. And I think communication is really key in this whole endeavor, right? I'll be sharing more stories like this and more insights into what it means to be unemployed, to lose your job at 40 years old, and what I'm going to do next. So if you want to follow on my journey, subscribe to the channel, like. Thanks so much for watching, y'all, and I'll catch you on the next one.